What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video, and today we got a new deck. Well, it's an old deck, but it's back again. This is Graveyard BlackFeather. This was around back in 2010, 2011, OCG. Okay, so this is essentially Vayu Turbo. Vayu Turbo has been around for a very long time, and I'm sure many of you guys remember searching on the interwebs back in the day and finding all the OCG lists, before we could get the cards months before. So I have kind of put zombies on the back burner right now. It's just not a good environment for zombies. Too many gladiator beasts, too many deck devies, too many royal oppression, and the fork deck is just not fun at all. So I don't know what I'm gonna be playing at Providence. Somehow or another I always get sucked back into zombies last minute because it's a comfort pick. But I've been testing some of the tier 1 decks because I've never played really any of the tier 1 decks in tournament play. And I went to my Edison monthly last week, which I generally use for just testing. I don't care enough to really win. I usually will show up with a zombie build I never played, like instant zombies or hero zombie, or so I decided to play Vayu Turbo, also known or formerly known as Graveyard BlackFeather in the OCG. So this was the build that I had played, and it is, so I went and looked at the old deck list. I found them, and I saw back in 2011 that this deck was pretty popular, and the OCG name was Graveyard BlackFeather. So, and they played it like this. They did have Pot of Greed, I don't know, the one that lets you search 3 and then add one to your hand, but you can't special summon, whatever that one's called. So that was out at this time. So it was like, the problem is if you try to match up OCG lists with the current like Edison list, if you're trying to look for something, their ban list never actually like lined up with ours. They would always have a different ban list and or would have different sets. And then we were getting like, I believe we were still getting TCG exclusives at that time. So needless to say, the card pool is different and the ban list was different. But there is like a small window where you can look at like some of the 2011 lists, like early 2011 before ban list, and it's similar to like our late 2010 ish. So of course they don't line up. But anyway, I found a list and I said, you know what? Thought to myself, I've never played Vayu Turbo, and I know that I can just pick up the Sizzle 41. That's what everyone's playing, and that deck is fine, tested, and I can just play it tomorrow, and I know it's good. And I probably should just play that at the monthly, but again, I just don't really care, and I decided to play something a little bit more fun, and I also wanted to test the theory. So the theory was that, and I've seen some other people kind of gravitating towards this as well, that Raikou and hamsters are slow, right? Because of too many combo decks, you don't want to be setting things, and you just want more and more speed. So when I saw this list there, they didn't. Most of the list did not play hamster or Raikou. There were some lists that played Raikou. I didn't see many of them that played the hamster. And a lot of them did not play Caius. But if you do go back in the interwebs and the archives, you can find lists that played both Raikou and Caius in the main deck, very similar to our Vayu Turbo today. And aside from the fact that they had, I think they had one more set ahead of us, and they played the Pot of Greedosity. I think that's what it is, or whatever. So I went down there. I was doing a little bit of research and said, let's see what the lists were back then and how can we make them playable in our format today. So we came up with this. And this is kind of similar to like the Virus Turbo builds that are running around where they choose to play 3 Greffer. And the goal is to like spit out an Armed Wing or an Armor Master and then Deck Devi or Eradicate Virus them, which makes a lot of sense. So this here is kind of being played as a traditional Vayu Turbo list without Hamster Raikou, and you're really just summoning Greffers and Armageddon Knights and sending pieces every turn, and trying to fuel the graveyard without having to set Raikous or hamsters. Now, this sounds great in theory. Okay, the problem I noticed with playing this deck is that it has a difficult time dealing with monsters in general that are bigger than 2300 attack because there's not really any. At least a Raikou could out something, and that's kind of Vayu Turbo's downfall anyway, right? It does have a difficult time dealing with some bigger monsters. Now, the side deck I literally threw together. That was like whatever I had, and I will tell you that the side deck is completely flawed and do not run the side deck. The main deck, I think could have some maybe something going for it. Probably needs to be worked on. Someone who's better at building decks. But again, I kind of took a lot of the old school list and whatever cards they were playing. A lot of them were playing DD Crow in the main. Now that could be because of the format at the time. I think Infernity was kind of coming out. Frog OTK was relevant, which is Frog OTK is kind of similar to our Frog combo deck in the fact that, well, they're both degenerate. So you know what I mean. They're not fun to play against at all. Obviously, Frog OTK was like really stupid. You could just win turn one, but so there was some similarities, and some of these cards you could definitely play today and or for our type of metagame. Now, I noticed that majority of them play 2 to 3 Icarus attack, which I never really. You see some in Vayu Turbo, you might see one here or there, but I think it's definitely needed if you're playing this build because you don't have a Caius to out something, you don't really have the Rykos to help out things, and Icarus attack makes up for that. Side deck was lackluster, so I'll tell you my rounds really quick. I think it was 5-round tournament. Round one, I played Christia Sworn. Game one, I just did like crazy burial, win the game in one turn. Game two, I think Christia hit the board, and I just like how I couldn't out it. Like if I don't have Icarus attack and if they don't run into a D prison, like you can't out it. Game three, they actually. Or maybe I lost game one to Christia. Game two, I won, and then game three, they went first and like summoned Lila, Mills, Wolf, turn one, and then I like summon Card Trooper, attack, they honest, and I'm like, well, this is like not going well. I think I was put down to 200 life points, and then I ended up like sticking a Dyna, and I just played Protect the Dyna the whole time, and their whole hand was like JD, Sork, and I ended up winning that game, which is like crazy that they milled double Wolf turn one, and I still was able to do that. But round two, I played against Amaryllis Plant Control, and won game one. Game two, Royal Oppression was putting in work, but I was like continuously negating to stop the Amaryllis, and then I got too low and they ended up just taking a game. And then game three, I just did like, crazy burial return stuff and win. Round three, I actually played a Vayu mirror match, and DD Crow game one actually put in work. It wins me the game. They didn't expect it. They were trying to go for an OTK, and I just crowed the Vayu. And game two, I like make a Brio, and I was putting them on like don't have Gores. They had Gores and Brain Con. I lose. And game three was ended up being a back and forth game. It probably shouldn't have been. They like got to go first and milled with Trooper, Vayu, Sirocco. I summon, try to kill Trooper, they don't let me, and then they mill another piece, Vayu again, and at that point, like I was like, well, this game's probably over, and I tried to play the game, but I ended up losing that. And at that point, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to be able to win the event. And what was like round four? I played Valhalla Fairies. So that deck is actually pretty funny when it works. They get to go first, and they had the combo with the Tethius and drew like 12 cards. But I have Spirit Reaper on the field. I'm like, well, you can draw 35 cards. It doesn't matter unless you draw the out for a Reaper. And they were like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But then they end up drawing Brain Control and out of the Reaper. And they also flipped Decree that game, so I couldn't do anything. Main deck. Game two, I was able to win. I don't remember how I was able to win. And they have Orb. So that's a big problem with this deck, too, is the Light Orb that I don't never really deal with that card because I play zombies, and like you probably should never side that card against Diva Zombie. There's just too many answers to it. It doesn't really stop anything. You can just summon Diva, Pyramid Turtle, Card Trooper if you're playing that, Mizuki. There's just too many outs. Nothing better than summon a Diva and then grabbing a Diva, swinging into an Orb, and you like, what are you going to deprison the Diva? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I never really deal with that when I play generally, and Orbs were like everywhere. Christia was putting in the Orbs, the Valhalla Fairy obviously was putting in the Orbs, so that's why the side deck is really flawed, because the plant deck put in Orbs. The only outs I actually have to the Orb in this deck is if I was side decking in the Dyna, which I had to because I couldn't out Orb any other way, and or Card Trooper. Unless you could like Icarus or Tarantula. So it was actually like very troublesome, and that's why you need to have Cyber Dragon in the side deck, definitely. But anyway, back to the round. So the Valhalla deck was like just flip Decree. It was just really strong. Christia, I think game two, they like early Christia, I couldn't out it with Decree on the board. I was like, I'm just not doing this. I just picked up my cards. And then last round I ended up playing Black Wings, and I 2-0'd Black Wings. So I went 3-2, never really playing Vayu. It's not the greatest record. Again, playing around with a deck that I don't generally play, and also that's not played like this. But I do think that someone playing Vayu better, more experience, could probably play something like this. I will say that the concept of no hamster, no Raikou, I think might be flawed because of the fact that if you look at the decks that do well that are not Blackwing or Frogs, they all play hamster Raikou. All of them. Vayu, Machina, and well, those are probably the only other two decks that can compete other than GB's, Blackwing, and the Frogs. So there's nothing better than going for sending Hamster into Raikou into Caius. Like that's still just one of the best plays of the format. And you would think that this deck is faster in the sense because you're just playing Armageddon Knights and Greffers, and maybe you need to play 3 Greffers as well. That could be a change. but it isn't faster actually. And the reason why is you can only send one piece generally per turn with Armageddon Knight. You summon Armageddon Knight, you send a piece. You have to wait next turn to send another piece. If you have another Armageddon Knight or whatever, where Raikou can just be, I know it's RNG, but Raikou can just fuel the graveyard with two pieces. Like my opponent summons Card Trooper and mills three and hits two pieces. Like you can't do that with this deck if you're not playing Raikou. You don't get that high roll mill, Plague Spreader, Necro, Vayu, and that's fast, right? And also it helps clear problem like Christia and Back Row Decree. Like you can deal with all those problems with the Raikou. So I think the theory that Raikou and Hamster might just be slow might be flawed, especially in this deck here. Like if you have a goal to virus like the Eradicator or Deck Devi, like that makes sense. You should play 3 Grepher, you can play Armageddon and like just gun discards and make the Armed Wing and Armor Master and just activate the card. That would make sense. But if you're trying to play a more traditional like Vayu Turbo game, I do think that it may be better just to play the Hamster Raikou. Obviously that deck is relevant, has been better this whole, it's been around this whole time. But I do think people are experimenting with the lack of Raikous and Hamsters, and I'm not sure if they have drawn the same conclusion, but I feel that in this deck, Raikou is still just super volatile, but also gets you some you just get no games with that card if you hit the right stuff. Also, there is some merit to this where you're not really susceptible to mind control at all. But then you really can't get the benefit of siding mind control or opening a mind control and being able to take your opponent's Raikou or Hamster. So I thought it was pretty cool just to go back in time, look at some of these old lists and say, hey, that's Vayu Turbo right there. And that's 2010, 2011 in the OCG, and they were playing this deck. And again, it's not the same version as it is today, and we have come and the deck has been changed along the way. But you can definitely find some old lists with Raikous in the build and the Kaias in the build. Again, Hamster wasn't extremely popular, but again, you could find some. Majority of them did not play any of that stuff. They kind of played just super fast like this. If I was to play this deck again, I would probably add a 3rd Grepher. Maybe cut a Crow or even the Spirit Reaper. I'm not sure. Whatever you want to cut. Sangan's okay in this list. Like it can search you the Armageddon Knight or a Gale or whatever. DD Crow is actually pretty good right now. I see a lot of decks kind of main decking it. I know a Machina player just wanted a big prize pool in Florida with double Crow in the main. They played it for different reasons. They played Pot of Avarice, but I think that this lists like this have been played with more Deck Devies and Eradicator viruses. People are getting away from the Hamster Raikou. I say if I was to play Vayu Turbo again, I would just play the Sizzle 41, load it up, locked and loaded, and for right now, that deck seems to be fine, keeps winning, keeps topping. You know what I mean? Maybe you put a Royal Oppression in or out of the deck. That's kind of one of the big things that depending on the format. But Deck Devi is just so broken. 2 Deck Devis in the main seem to be super strong, and it just gatekeeps a lot of the other decks like Zombies, Fairies, and whatnot. So I thought it was pretty spicy, so I figured I would share the list. I do want to say that if anybody is going to YCS Providence the beginning of May, that our locals that throw the monthlies are going to have a monthly that Friday night right before the event. I believe first place will be PAX and an Ultimate Stratos. I think it's $15 to play. You get a couple packs for entering. And it should be a good time, practice just before the event, something to do on Friday night when I know a lot of people are flying in. I do believe cap is going to be 60 players. Don't quote me on it. I'm going to have a flyer, and I'll post, hoping to post another video. It is already posted, I believe. I think the flyer is already posted or will be posted in the War League Discord server. So if you guys are planning to come out, it's like 25 minutes from Rhode Island. It's very close. Like we share, states are close by, and it's very close by. And locals is pretty good, very big, lots of room, and I think that it's a good spot to hang out. I don't know if I will play, and I don't usually play super serious at locals. I like to have a good time, try different things, something like that. I might feel like I have to play a little bit more difficult, a more difficult field, so I feel like I might have to play something more fun. But I do think that there's going to be trophies too, the BLS trophies. I actually didn't know this past weekend that they were giving out Dark Arm trophies, and I was like, well, if I had known that, I would have played the Sizzle 41. But anyway, so that should be fun. I'll make a video and we'll post the flyer out if you guys plan on coming down, and that should be a good time beforehand. This is, again, Graveyard BlackFeather. Vayu Turbo. I thought it was pretty cool. You can always find these lists online on some of the old OCG websites. And with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one.